Okay, looks like everybody is on their spots. So hello everybody, I'm Anton Kril. I'm Director of Architecture at Magento, which I usually joke that being Director of Architecture, I just mostly send emails, which is mostly true, but also I talk a lot to different people. That's part of my job. I almost don't write code, right? That is bad. But I talk to people, and part of my job is trying to guess what's happening next with the ecosystem, what's happening next with technology, and try to figure out where we should be going. And by talking to a lot of people in community and in Magento, especially marketing team and leadership team, I understand that there is very often different view of situation by different levels of developers, different people that are involved on different levels in Magento community. It's very often very hard to read through this marketing messages that Magento sends and understand how Magento is feeling now, Magento as a company, how Magento as a product is feeling now, how are we measuring against competition, what are we thinking about, what is our prediction of tomorrow, right? What's our next steps? I will try to not load you with technical details here. Hopefully Igor and Eugene and other guys did that enough on this conference. I will have some bad diagrams. It's time for bad diagrams, by the way. But hopefully this will be a good conversation that will bring our understanding of situation and where we should be moving next closer to your understanding of situation on higher level, not on technical details like specifically how do we want to rewrite checkout, but conceptually, where do we move, where do we think technology will be tomorrow, and what do we plan to do about that, okay? Makes sense? Sounds like interesting topic? Of course it does. Right? Okay, so first, how are things, right? So up until last year, you all work with Magento. I assume most of you work more than 1 year, and you probably followed some history of Magento, right? Who knows the history of Magento older than 3 years? Okay, so I'll do a quick intro to history of Magento, right? So it was first an agency. Then they decided, long before I joined Magento, then they decided that they had a lot of projects that probably figured out that they can reuse some code, and they decided to do a platform, and then they started to productize that platform. They got investment, a great startup. It was something great at that moment, 2007, 2008, because the ecosystem was pretty terrible at that point, right? There was no good solution for small stores. There were no customizable platforms, so it's skyrocketed. Magento just bursted. It became crazy, hundreds of thousands of installations, right? And that's how they got more investment. From eBay, and then eventually Magento got purchased by eBay, and then eBay tried to do some integration projects, but after a couple years of working with eBay, Magento got sold by eBay as a package with some other commerce companies, and as a part of the deal, Magento became in 2015, effectively the month I think before the launch of Magento 2 project. Magento became an independent company, right? So, and I think the valuation of Magento at that point was around $300 million, right? And then, so it's 2015, we released Magento 2, and we have a great leadership team, right? The team that knows what to do. And they start to do all the things that are absolutely required to raise the valuation of your company, right? So we started to launch new products, evolve our integrations, add some features, hire right people, do proper announcements, do proper marketing, get better numbers. As a result of that, as a lot of you probably heard, last year Magento got acquired by Adobe, right? Who knows the number? The number? Do you guys know the number? How much did they pay for us? Okay, so $1.67 billion, right? So it's, I think 3 years, the price of Magento went up more than 5 times, right? Pretty good, right? So now the people who actually, who ruled the business side of Magento over the 3 years, they are now rock stars in this business, right? They probably have, there will be a big demand for them in this companies that buy smaller companies and then sell them between the funds, right? Sell them more expensive. So it's one of the great examples where they took smaller company and then sold it for crazy amount of money to a huge company, right? So now the market says that Magento feels very good, right? 300 million to 1.67 billion valuation Adobe paid for us. There were multiple reasons why Adobe paid such a huge amount of money for Magento. By the way, do you guys feel like you understand why Adobe purchased Magento? Like, who feels that they have good understanding why Adobe bought Magento? Okay, 3 people. Cool, 4 people. Okay, who knows anything else about Adobe beyond Photoshop and PDF? Okay, a bit more of people. But Adobe is actually big in enterprise-grade marketing experience software. So Adobe Experience Manager is #1 product in experience management today, right? We say that it's #1 in the world. But companies like Apple, Adidas, they use this Adobe project. And they were missing one big puzzle in their picture, the commerce platform. And that was this element that was missing was Magento, right? So they purchased Magento and started actively market integrations between Magento and other Adobe products, right? Make sense? So now, oh, this looks terrible, but you can see, you kind of see the trend, right? Who knows what Gartner Magic Quadrant is? Okay, not that bad, but you should probably, like, if you want to follow this, if you just want to know about engineering, you don't care about this, but a lot of this information is available on Twitter, and Adobe and Magento very often do these announcements, but conceptually, the Gartner Magic Quadrant is an analytics report that says they compare different platforms and say they compare their ability to execute and their completeness of vision, and then they rank them. And the further to the right and the top you are as a platform, the better you are. And here you can see the trend for Magento 2017, 2018, and 2019. So you can clearly see how Magento goes up and right to the right corner. So it's amongst, so here, you can see that, but it's now on same level with such monsters of e-commerce as SAP and Salesforce, right? So this is huge. Like SAP and Salesforce are multi-billion dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar businesses for enterprise, right? And here this Magento, this PHP platform, right? This PHP platform, people in enterprise, when you come to an enterprise architect in Oracle or and then you start to tell them about PHP, you know what they do? They say PHP, and so they start to Google what's PHP, right? And then of course they figure out what's PHP and they start to, make fun of it, right? And yet you see this PHP platform somehow got it to the same level these huge monsters of e-commerce, enterprise commerce platforms, right? So one interesting aspect that you see that Magento very often now compares itself to enterprise-grade commerce software, not some other platforms that you probably compare Magento to. You probably compare Magento to platforms like Shopify or Shopware. Am I right? I'm of course right. But this thing, what this thing means for you is that Magento is doing very, very well in the very important segment where it matters a lot. In the important segment where there is huge amount of money for ecosystem, right? Those are big clients with big projects, with big integrations, and we are actually doing very well. So after Adobe acquisition, a lot of big agencies started to take us seriously, right? So agent system integrators like Deloitte, we started to have meetings with them. So over last year, we had tens of meetings with all the top companies in the world, like Google, Microsoft, on integrations with Amazon, on integrations with their platform. But we also had a lot of meetings with big enterprise integrators that consult huge companies, the companies that pay big money for their platform. And they very often, before Adobe acquisition, they didn't have Magento business. They didn't have Magento segment. And now they, of course, it's Adobe, it's serious, so they started to take a look at it. And you know what's funny? That for them, Magento is a lightweight platform. Right? It's kind of embarrassing that you laugh at it, but that's true, because people that are used to this heavy enterprise-grade platforms, they launch projects on Magento in half the time that they are used to. These huge and big projects, right? So we are doing very well there. And comparing by this big platform that cost a lot of money. And Magento is cheaper and easier to launch and easier to integrate. And we are being this startup conceptually are competing well. Now the question is, so what do we do next? And how do we evolve our platform? And we are, as Igor just described, we are very good in sharing our plans. So hopefully, for people who really follow Magento and follow how Magento communicates its plans, I will not be telling you a lot of new things. What I will try to tell you some things that are more aggregated way, that are less technical details and less marketing, and with more motivation. Okay, so what next? The next thing is we are thinking, okay, so how does the commerce business evolve, and what types of markets do we want to follow? So we probably know that Magento started in a small business market and mid-market, and is growing. So you see that we are growing up market. We go to bigger and bigger customers. It definitely means that probably in lower ends of the markets we'll be losing to some other platforms. But we still want to keep that big part of that market by also going up, right? So what that means for us? That means that we have to be the platform for growth, right? That's one of our mottos, platform for growth, that you can start as a smaller end of the market and grow to huge enterprise. So, right, so now, how do you do that? How do you want to do that? And of course, with current, you probably worked with Magento, and I will not be trying to convince you that it's super easy to evolve Magento from small enterprise to huge complex enterprise. But we are thinking how to do that. So how to prepare the platform for that, to have evolvable platform, agile platform that allows you to evolve, we have to understand how enterprises evolve, right? So how enterprises evolve. Sorry, I have to skip this slide. I will just talk about these things, but that doesn't matter. So how do enterprises evolve? Like, some time ago, for smaller markets, and like 10 years ago, if you installed Magento, what types of software did you need as a small enterprise, as a small merchant? Well, you need Magento, right? And that's it. Now, lately, you started to need PWA. PWA became a hype, so everybody wants this rich, front-end, easy to develop, super performant application. Hopefully you all are looking into that. So now, and Magento, more people start to use Magento in this headless mode. But now as you start to grow and now as you start to become more complex application, of course, you start to want to integrate more complex solutions like product information management system, order management system, content management system. Magento, of course, offers these systems, subsystems out of the box, but they are basic implementations. There is more specialized software out there that does the things better. So the bigger the enterprise, the higher probability that they will have this more advanced software systems integrated, right? So the higher you go in the market, the bigger enterprise you are, the more systems you want to integrate. So of course, the obvious answer that we have for ourselves, we have to be very easy to integrate with. And that was also the reason why Magento was always kind of, was growing so fast, because it was kind of easy to integrate. And the problem was that with years, it actually became harder to integrate with Magento as connections between Magento components were growing. That's why we had this big, huge epic of service isolation that Igor already mentioned, Eugene mentioned yesterday. They couple Magento services and isolate them so that they work by contracts. So conceptually, if you evolve that previous picture, if you think further and further what other systems people might want to integrate, you will come to this diagram that we were showing everywhere, but I actually was less lazy than those two guys, and I adopted it for this presentation template. Right? So I didn't just show you the picture, I drew it in PowerPoint. So if you look at that, you start from PWA because you think about your customer, so you want to have your PWA, and Magento works on it, right? So we work on our PWA solution that conceptually you already can go and build stores today. Right? We don't advertise it a lot because we want to get to further levels of stability, but the tooling is there. The scenarios, basic scenarios are there. You should definitely go and check out Magento PWA Studio and Venia Peregrine library. There were like 3 or 4 talks on this conference about PWAs, right? Different PWAs. So hopefully you already know what PWA is. That's one of the technologies that you guys should know. That's out of question, right? So you choose your technology, either Vue framework or React.js framework. Magento builds its PWA solution on React framework, but you can choose Vue. Whatever you like, you just have to make sure that your storefront UI is decoupled from your APIs, and and you use the most modern technology, and you deliver the best experience for your customers. So next, of course, you say that this PWA solution needs GraphQL. And again, if you follow Magento, that you know that Magento is building its GraphQL layer that will be served by serving PWA application, right? Hopefully a lot of you know that, right? Now, that was all simple, but now the question is, how do we implement these APIs? And we choose to implement these APIs by a more isolated components that have a lot less communication between each other, so that they are more replaceable. So what components do you want in your storefront application? So you need catalog, search, pricing and promotions, rating and reviews, content, experience management, checkout, orders, store info. These are like big, you want smaller components, but we say that this is storefront application. And if you think about it, this is one of the main things that Magento has to own, because Magento was always people used to call it the shopping cart, install a shopping cart for me. But it's effectively, we call it storefront application, right? So it's a storefront application and it manages your storefront scenarios and storefront services. Now we say that this storefront application has to be completely decoupled from your back office application, where you do your management of your entities, like products, orders, customers. Those are back office applications. Big conceptual difference between back office applications and storefront applications is that storefront application is real-time application. All the requests that come from here to here are real-time, and they should be served very quickly, right? So we say that our storefront application should be decoupled and should be very fast and real-time application, right? Now also you need back office systems. And this is where, sorry for it's too low, but conceptually, the big difference from what we are doing today is that today, for example, Magento catalog module serves both storefront scenarios and back office scenarios. And many platforms do the same thing. We say, no, we want to decouple those systems, and we want to say that product information management system is not the same as catalog. Those are two conceptually different systems. They should have different data structures and different processing infrastructure, right? So for back office, you need product information management, configure price quote for advanced configurable product scenarios. You need warehouse management, order management, customer relation management, marketing and campaign, channel management, experience management, content management. So there's a couple other systems, but the bigger the client, the more of the systems will be will be separate. So if you talk about a client, huge client that has, it's a huge enterprise that has established business, and they already use advanced ERPs like Microsoft Dynamics, and they have everything in Dynamics. Right? They have customer relation management, they have order management, they have pricing in quotes, and they have all of these back office systems. They have. What they don't have is this part. Right? So Magento, we want to say that Magento has to have, this should be super strong focus of Magento, and Magento has to have default implementations for this, but implementations that are easy to replace when your application evolves. Right? Makes sense? Of course it makes sense. So we do that, and now the question is, well, it's kind of pretty far from how Magento is implemented today, right? So how do we do that? We can, of course, go and rewrite everything, right? That's that's the best hobby of every developer: rewrite everything from scratch. And but there's a problem. We are ecosystem company, and we rely on you guys, on extensions, on customizations, to actually finish implementations. If we do that, we will break everyone, right? By the way, so we have this approach how we plan to implement it without breaking you or without breaking our current solution. By the way, there is one thing that I forgot to notice here: the communication patterns between the subsystems. The important thing is that communication should be completely broken. There should be no real-time connection between back office components and storefront components. Right? So to say simply, if a request comes in from here, it should never be served by this system. Like no 0 lines of code should be executed here. Make sense? Why? Again, because these are not real-time systems, and their data structures and their data storages are not built for real-time serving. And they can have bulk processing, batch processing, but conceptually, some code reuse can happen here. But this storefront application should be designed the way that it never calls these back office systems to serve client requests. Right? And one other important thing is that data in all this integration, data flow should be unidirectional. So you should never exchange data between in both directions between one subsystem. You should have separate subsystems for if you want to call back office to here, that should be calling one subsystem. But if you want to pass some data from here to here, then only you have to have separate service that calls back office. It's kind of complicated, but it makes sense, believe me. So, so I'm just showing here that the arrows are, there is complicated communication, but they should be completely decoupled in time, right? So there is this microservices architecture. I don't know if you dive into that. The important concept about it is that you decouple logic both in place and time. So microservices allows you to decouple behavior in place by deploying your code into different services. But asynchronous communication, which is an important part for truly microservice architecture, asynchronous non-blocking communication, decouples services in time. So these two subsystems should be decoupled in time. Like, okay, makes sense. So I'm trying to, land this thought, why it is important, but it's important. Okay, so now how do we plan to roll this out? So let's say that we have this is my very intellectual and concise and full diagram of Magento today. This is how I see Magento today. Of course, it's a joke, but I mean, just very, very high level of abstraction. So you have your Luma storefront. Part of it is served by service contracts. Part of it is not served by service contracts. It goes to database. There is some conceptual separation between database, between back office or admin database and storefront database. The data aggregation happens in indexes. You have this models and service contracts serving REST APIs and admin UIs, right? So this is current Magento monolith. So now again, what we are saying, we want to decouple this and we want to decouple this. And where do we start? we already announced that we start with PWA application. So what do? We rewrite this completely? No, it's a breaking change. Then we say that we need to change communication layer, the API is here. Do we rewrite this completely? No, it's a breaking change. So how we started to do it? We just built it on the side, right? So we build here, right? So we say, this is current application, and it's completely backwards compatible, and it will be supported for many, many years. But PWA, we say, is a completely different technology, completely different approach, and we work on it. Right? It's effectively, you can already start to use it today. Right? Now, GraphQL APIs. We also build new GraphQL APIs. So before that, we only had REST APIs that were always more directed to admin scenarios. But GraphQL APIs are different from REST APIs. So we build them here, right? And then the next step that we are saying is that we build storefront APIs that will be serving GraphQL APIs. So you see that we go top down. So we built API, PWA, then PWA dictates GraphQL APIs, then GraphQL APIs dictates the storefront APIs and storefront services that we need for storefront. Okay? So we are now here on this stage. We already defined a lot of this, The work still continues here, but we are now in the process of defining this. So when we complete it, then we can say that our storefront application is complete, and it works with current Magento admin application. Make sense? So you understand the benefit of it. This application will be completely decoupled, super scalable. We have already some numbers. They are crazy compared to performance numbers. They are crazy compared to what we have today in REST APIs and even in older implementation of GraphQL, right? So it's a storefront optimized scenarios. And we will be, so it's an active development, right? Well, this, we developed it, we add some features here, we support it. If you work with this, you work with this. This is the evolution, okay? And that's kind of the best way how we can preserve compatibility for you guys. If you launch stores on this will be supported for many years, so you don't have to migrate to that. But if you start with PWA, you will be working with GraphQL. One more important feature, and I think these are some important topics that I wanted to stop here, and I'll let you go to get your lunch after that. But one important thing that we are also talking about, if you probably know that there is no commitment to implement this. This is speculation. I just want to tell you our thoughts so that we can get your thoughts about this, right? So current data dimensions and data scopes in Magento, you have websites, stores, store views. You have customer groups, and you have currencies, right? But conceptually, the main dimensions of data are websites, stores, and store views. And they are very, in my opinion, confusing, because they try to package too many dimensions into one concept, into a single concept. So what we are saying, we want to try to think how we can extract separate dimensions for locale and sublocale, so hierarchical dimension. Separate dimension for markets, so you can say in your scenario when you have multi-market, multi-locale store, you do not say that I have website and I have multiple stores and store views. You actually say I have these locales are linked to these markets, and you have explicit dimensions for channels. So you say in German market, I want to sell in Amazon and eBay and on my store view. Right? So channels are a first-class citizen in this system. Same as markets, locales, customer groups are old, and businesses. Stores stay here. Versions we already have in content staging. And what we have here, well, currency. It's currency. But the newer entities that we are talking about, again, please don't, there is no commitment to implement it. This is just important fundamental change that we are thinking about, because we've evolved this data structures, this domain model for years now, and there are some things that we hit constantly, some problems in our modeling that we hit constantly. And this is one of the big things that will touch every component of the system if we change it, and that's what we are talking about modifying in Magento. I'm actually out of time, and I will let you go for your lunch. I have a couple more topics to talk about. Of course, we don't only talk about these things. You can find me. I'll be here for some time. But conceptually, I want you to switch your thinking, maybe not switch, some of you are already doing that, but I want you to talk to us. I want you to understand the platform. You invest your time and your part of your life into this platform. And I know that a lot of you are frustrated. And I know that a lot of you look at some different platforms, and they are newer platforms, and they are sexier platforms, and they are written in sexier languages, right? And there is a lot of legacy code in Magento. Do you think we don't know that? Of course we know that. And we understand a lot of the thoughts that you guys have, but there is a lot of things that are happening in Magento platform that come unnoticed by Magento, a lot of community developers, and we want to share those. We try to do that. We have this open GitHub repository where every proposal is shared, every proposal is described, all the technical details are described, but who reads that, right? Who reads the documentation? Who reads those proposals? The good way to reach out and to reduce the amount of stress that you have in your life is to get involved in this community, start to know more, and you can do that by reading our design documents and reaching out to us in our Slack, Community Engineering Slack, and on Twitter or whatever. So I'll stop here, but as I said, please come talk to me. I'll tell you more about how we plan to resolve problems with upgrades and stuff. Thank you. Please go have your lunch.